Hi there, welcome to episode 6 of Ask Paulie Anything. So today I'm going to answer a question about PHP memory limit on WordPress. So here's the question. What should the WP memory limit and WP max memory be? My site has 10,000 daily visitors and runs in WordPress and WooCommerce. Part 2 of the question, does memory limit affect the speed of the website? So there's a couple of things we need to understand a little bit about what this WP memory limit is. For those that don't know, WordPress offers you the option to use a PHP constant called WP underscore memory underscore limit to set the maximum memory usage by PHP. Now, what does that actually mean? So let's assume that your server has 1 gigabyte of memory, and let's assume then also that that 1 gigabyte is wholly available to PHP. What you're basically saying is, by WP memory limit, is that when someone loads a page or when PHP is instantiated, the maximum memory that that PHP process can use is X. So let's say you set the memory limit to 128 megabytes. That means if your PHP processes all use the full amount of memory available to them, 128 megabytes, you will be limited to 10 concurrent PHP processes. Now that seems to confuse a lot of people. So you're saying I can only have 10 processes on my site at one time. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if each process used the maximum amount of memory available to them, then that's the maximum amount of concurrent process your server would theoretically support. But WP memory limit does not mean this is the amount of memory that a PHP process will use. Rather, this is the amount of memory that a PHP process will be allowed to use. If you set your memory limit too low, let's say 32 megabytes, and you nowadays have a good number of plugins on your site won't load. In fact, it'll crash, and you'll get a familiar message that goes something like process exceeded allowable memory bytes by so many bytes. But basically, if PHP goes over your limit, it will crash, and nobody wants a crashing site. You would rather have the upper limit to be a little bit higher. So what memory limit is doing is basically trying to contain how big a memory footprint that a PHP process can actually make maximum, not what it will actually make. So this question says 10,000 daily visitors, runs on WordPress and WooCommerce. There's no way to know from that question what your memory limit is. But what your memory limit should be is at least as big as it needs to be. So if sometimes when a person loads a page, you use 64 megabytes, but most of the time it uses only 50 megabytes, then the minimum value that you should put for your WP memory limit is 64 megabytes. You should put your minimum value to be whatever the amount of memory that is required for every single page load to work. This doesn't mean that if you set a very high value that you're limited to the number of pages that you can run. You are, if your PHP process will use all that memory that you've made available to it. The second part of the question was, does memory limit affect the speed of the website? No, it doesn't. Now, there's in a certain way it could. So if you give PHP memory limit, make it very large, then perhaps PHP, depending on how it's configured, depending on how it actually works, will clean up after itself a little less often because it's got so much more memory to work with, because cleaning up is intensive work that it has to do. Essentially, I would say no, that increasing your WP memory limit will not affect the speed of your website. What will affect the speed of your website is how it's configured, the number of plugins you're running, and the number of visitors you have, and how powerful your server is. If you have 10,000 daily visitors, you're going to need a powerful server. Changing your memory limit won't really affect that. So what you'll want to do is increase the physical memory available to the system. I hope that gives a little bit of background on the WP memory limit and how it works and why it works. In summary, the purpose of the memory limit is to prevent certain PHP processes that might go wrong from taking over the server memory. I hope that helps. If you have any questions about that, or if you have any questions of your own, please feel free to use the link to give us your question. If you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe. If you're on Facebook, hit the like, share, all those good things, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Goodbye.